Good morning. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn. And this is our learning. We should have the Beit Mikdash. And it should be a panacea. Okay, today we're going to start Lamed Vav Lamed Beis towards the bottom. So begin, first words on the line. Amar le Rav Ashi le Rav Hoshia Breder Avidi. So what's happening here? We said if someone does Yibam, but she thought everything is good, he's supposed to do Yibam. His brother passed away, he does Yibam. Turns out she was pregnant. And then the child passed away. So it turns out he was right. He was supposed to do Yibam. So we had a statement from Rabbi Eliezer that there's a knas there, even though he was right, but he did what was not right. And so he has to get divorced. Then we had a statement from Rava that says that Reb Meir and Reb Eliezer agree. Reb Meir has an opinion that a person, based on what the sages say, that a person's not allowed to marry his, is not allowed to, a woman is not, that's nursing or pregnant has to wait 2 years before she gets remarried. So let's say she didn't wait. So Reb Meir says she has to get divorced and can never marry again, that person. That person can never marry her again. The Chacham say, no, you get divorced and you stay separated. Okay, so Abaya says that they don't, not necessarily is that the same opinion. Reb Meir and Rabbi Eliezer, before each one says they have to get divorced, it's not necessarily the same opinion. Whatever the case was, Rava then said that when the Chachamim say that you have to get divorced, doesn't mean separated, it means actually divorced. Okay, now what we're holding is Amalei Rav Ashi le Rav Hoshia Breder Rav Idi. Rav Ashi says to Rav Hoshia, the son of Rav Idi, he has an introduction to his question. First, it's a little bit lengthy, his introduction. It says, Hasam Tanan. Over there, there's a Mishnah, probably a Brisa. It's a Brisa. That Reb Shimon ben Gamliel Aimer Kol Shesha Ba'adam Lamed Yom Ein Nefel. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel holds. You see, what was happening now is that if a woman is, there's a possibility that she can have a child in Talmudic times after 9 months or after 7 months. 7 months of pregnancy or 9 months of pregnancy. Now, if it's in the middle, then it could be the child won't survive. The 8th month is not a healthy child. Now, if it's not perfectly clear, so then you have to wait 30 days to determine if the child is really a healthy child. When the child survives for 30 days, that tells me, oh, he must have been a 7 month, or he must have been a 9 month. You know, that tells me that he was actually a healthy child after 30 days. So if it waits 30 days, then it's not an nefel. But if he doesn't wait, Sveika Habi, then it's a doubt. What does it mean? It means if the child passed away. If the child passed away within 30 days, Shah means wait. If the child survived. Yeah, well, let me explain. If the child, you see, a brother that passed away, Ruvain passes away, and his wife is pregnant. Then she has a child. Now, that child, if it survives past 30 days, and it goes till a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and then passes away, Shimon does not then jump in and say, his brother passed away without a child. He has to come and do you. It's over. He had a child. If he had a child, even if the child passes away, it's still considered that he had a child. Okay. But when is it considered that he had a child? Only if the child, if there was a doubt about this pregnancy, only if the child survived 30 days. If the child didn't survive 30 days, then we don't know. Is this the real child or not? So what do you do? So you'll do chalitza, you can't do yibam. Yeah? Okay, now it's clear. Over there, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel also says that for a human, it takes 30 days to determine if it's viable. By an animal, it takes 8 days. Okay, 8 days. This is regarding a bachar, I think, or whatever it would be relevant for. I don't know what it's relevant for. Okay. The Itmar, and we have a statement of Amiraim on this Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. It says like this: Meis b'toich lamed yaim v'amda v'neskatsha. Let's say the child of the deceased brother passed away within 30 days. Okay. The woman, the widow, was supposed to do chalitza because she doesn't know if that was a child. That was a doubt. She doesn't know if that's a child from her. If that child is viable. We know it's from. We don't know if the child is viable. So, and then she goes and she gets married without chalitza. Yeah. And she gets married to someone else, someone out there. So Ravina Mishmei de Rav Amar Imeshis Yisrael he chiletzes. If the man that she married out there in the marketplace, she found someone, she got married. If that's a Yisrael, so then she goes back to the brother-in-law, to Shimon, who's the brother of her deceased husband, and she says, "Let's do chalitza, and then I'll go back to my husband that I found in the marketplace." Because chalitza is not going to affect her marriage in any way. It wasn't adultery. She was just supposed to do chalitza before she married out to anyone else. However, there's a problem over here. If the person that she found was Mr. Cohen, so then if she does chalitza, she's going to be prohibited to the new husband that she found. So the sages said, don't do chalitza. We'll let it pass. We'll say that the child was viable. Again, the child passed away within 30 days. We'll say the child was viable, and therefore she never needed chalitza, and we'll let her stay with the husband. Very interesting. Big heter. Let's say it wasn't. Rav Misharshi Mishmei de Rav Amar Achazu v'Achazu Chiletzes. Rav Misharshi says the name of Rava that no, you always need chalitza even if it's Eishes Kayin. Okay, this is all an introduction to a question that's coming up soon. Amalei Ravina Rav Misharshi. Ravina tells to Rav Misharshi. Ravina gave the lenient opinion. Rav Misharshi gave the strict opinion about the Kayin. Says Ravina tells him, "Bu'erta Amar Rava Hachi." I heard your opinion before. Rava said it, but he retracted. Rava said it in the evening. In the morning, when we came back in the morning, he said he thought about it again. It wasn't accurate. Be lenient. Amalei, so Misharshi tells him, Sharisu, you're being lenient. Rava de Tishraf Tarba. It should be the will of Hashem that you should also permit forbidden fats. Yeah, it means like you're being way too lenient. Is that how it's put over there? It's like a surprising comment, but yeah. In other words, what are you going to do next? Okay, hacha. All of that was an introduction to the question. There was a conversation that took place about how we treat a kayan, a wife, a new wife of a kayan, when they should really get divorced. Are we lenient about it?
Yeah. It seems whenever a rabbi wants to say a nasty way, to another rabbi, they make these like comments that they must think that they're nicer way of saying like Lashon Nakiya, but they never really seem to be Lashon Nakiya. So what are we supposed to learn from this in real life as far as hinting to someone if they did some wrong or obviously wrong? Because I don't want to learn from the way they do.
I don't have an answer.
Okay.
Hacha.
I don't know if
There's a famous Chuvas Chavas Yair. Chavas Yair was Yaakov Bachrach. He wrote a book of Chuvas, but one of them was about how is it that they actually spoke like this. Yeah.
What did he say?
I don't know. I think he tries to explain each one or something, but I don't know. I'm not sure. Hacha gabi muberes chavera yaminekes chavera nesua l'kayin mai. Question is, let's say someone married a woman that was still nursing a child from the first husband. The husband passed away, so he was supposed to wait 2 years. He didn't wait 2 years. Now the question is, we said before that she's supposed to get divorced. We had two opinions. We had the opinion of Reb Meir, she can never marry this person again. We had the opinion of Chachamim, so she gets divorced temporarily, and then she marries him back when the time is up. But let's say the person that she married was a Kayan. So you just told me that there's a lenient view that if a child didn't survive, we say that if it's a husband was a Kayan, that the person she married was a Kayan, we're lenient. We just say, yeah, we'll consider the child viable, and we won't require chalitza. So over here, will we not require the get that the sages instituted because the new husband is a Kayan? Okay, that's a very good question. Do we have a solution if the new husband is a Kayan? So Amalei hachi hashta. So one second. You're getting very, you're pushing it. He says, Bishlai Mahasam over there, Kivan Dikarabana de Pligila, the Rabshim Bingam Leal, Damri Afagav Blesha, Vlad Mal Yahavi. Over there was a machlaikas. Rabshim Bingam Leal says it takes 30 days for the child to be considered viable. But there was another view. We didn't quote that view, but there was another view that held that it doesn't have to be 30 days, even less than 30 days, the child is considered viable. And therefore, there was no requirement of chalitza here. There was no requirement of yibam. And so when she went and married someone in the marketplace, it was perfectly acceptable. Now, we weren't going to follow that opinion. We wanted to follow Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. But if it's a kayan, we'll say, okay, there's another view. You don't have to be strict on them like this view. But Gabi Yeshus kayan, so Kivin Layef Din Karabanan, we'll follow the other view. Aval Hacha, Kman Navid. But over here, anyone holds that you're allowed to get married. You have two opinions. Ikarab Meir, the other opinion says you never get married. You can never remarry. Ikarabanan. So Ha'amri beget, but the Rabbanan say you have to get divorced. Now, it's rabbinic, but nevertheless, we're saying, but we don't have another view to back it up. Okay. That's that question, and that's the answer. Itmar, very strict. Itmar, we have a statement. Kidsha b'toich shleisha ubarach. Said you should really wait 3 months. Before a new marriage. Why? Because maybe the child, maybe if she's pregnant, it's going to be a confusion. If the husband is the new husband, the husband is the old husband. Yeah. So let's say someone didn't wait. And what does he do? He runs away. Is that good enough for us? One says you put him in chayrim, you didn't wait. He's not around, but so what? You put it in the newspaper. It says, no, it's good enough that he ran it. What's chayrim? Chayrim means he's excommunicated. Well, he's not here anyway. And I mean, it resolves an issue. It resolves an issue that he's not going to be with her. See, it doesn't say that he married her. It says kidsha. He just did the kedushin. So the kedushin, you weren't supposed to do the kedushin, but now that he's not here, we know that he's not. We know that he's not going to consummate the marriage, which is with the real issue. So Havi Uvda, there was a case Vamar Rafram Yerukim Mistai. Rafram said that the running away is good enough. We don't have to make a cherem as well. It's interesting because there was a machlekes, and the Gemara didn't tell me who held what. But now when it tells me the story, it does tell me who held what. It says Rafram held that it's good enough that he ran away. Okay, the next Gemara goes like this. Safik ben Teisha Chulu. We said in the Mishnah that if there's a child if Yibam was performed and turns out that she was actually pregnant. Well, he wasn't supposed to do Yibam. Okay, let's say we don't know.
So she's pregnant, we just don't know if she's 9 months pregnant.
Oh, so 1 second. So that was the first case. Then the next case was, let's say that we see that she's pregnant after the Yibam, but we don't know if it's to which father. Is it 9 months from the first one, or is it 7 months from the second one? Okay, so what's the din with this child? Well, the child is either a child from the first husband, or he's a child from the second husband, from the brother. Either way, the child is kosher. Because if it's a child from the first husband, so I know the Shimon was not supposed to marry Leah, right, Reuben's wife, but so what? The child was from before, so big deal. I mean, that doesn't affect the child. And if it's Shimon's child, then he was supposed to marry Leah, so it's all good. Everything is good. But the only problem is that Shimon should not be married to Leah if it's the child from Reuben, right? So they have to get divorced, but the child is kosher, and he brings an Asham Tali. Asham Tali is a guilt offering because of doubt. Maybe he committed a sin. If it was definitely a child from the first one, you bring a chatas, because it's karis. Anything that's mazid karis. This was a shagig. He didn't know that she was pregnant. So Safik ben Teisha Chulu. Amalei Rava Rav Nachman. Rava says to Rav Nachman, why are you telling him that he needs to bring an Asham Talei? Leima halachacha reiv nashim. Let's follow the statistics. And statistically, the majority is for reiv nashim l'tisha yaldan. Most women give birth after 9 months. To give birth after 9 months, then the child was from the first husband. He should have to bring a chatas. We follow the majority. Amalei, so Rav Nachman responds to Rava. He says, Nashi didan l'shiva yaldan. Our wives give birth after 7 months. Amal. Oh, yeah. So Amalei, so Rava responds to Rav Nachman, Nashi didchu aviru b'dalma. So your wives are in your family, the wives of your family, as the whole world. Yeah. This is more like how to do the studies. No, the studies that people do, like, oh, this is what you're supposed to do, and this, this, like, we have studies, and it's, yeah, but I asked all my brothers-in-law and sisters-in-law, they told me that this is what they do, and it's fine. So, okay, this, that's right. So Rav is saying that majority of women give birth after 9 months. So that means that this child comes from the first husband, comes from Reuben, because bringing the wrong sacrifice. Okay, so Amalei Hachikamina. This is what I meant to say. Roiv Nashim Yaldan Latisha, Umiyat Lashiva. There is a minority that has children after 7. But Kala Yaldas Latisha. Anyone that there's another factor here. Any woman that that has a 9-month pregnancy, ubra nikar l'shlish yameh. After the first trimester, it's recognizable that she's pregnant. Now, that was our question here. I mean, the real question was, what happened after 3 months? How did they get married? You're telling me that it's either 9 to this or 7 to that, 9 to Reuven or 7 to Shimon, but what happened after 3 months? So apparently, they weren't able to tell that she was pregnant. That's an odd oddity. So even though there is a statistic that most women give birth after 9 months, but there's something wrong with this when it comes to this woman, because we were not able to tell that she was pregnant after 3 months. So maybe it ruins the majority. Gemara asks, if that's the case, that all the expression was that Rav Nachman used was all women that have a 9-month pregnancy are recognizable after the first trimester. But this woman, because she wasn't recognizable that she's pregnant after the first trimester, then it must be the 7 month. So now we have the answer. We know what it is. It's there's no sacrifice at all. This was a good yibam. Ella Ema, so I guess it's Rav Nachman that's saying this. Majority of women that have a 9-month pregnancy have it's recognizable that they're pregnant after the first trimester. But and this woman over here, Leah, because it wasn't recognizable, so we don't know if she's part of the majority, and so therefore we can't just say that he has to bring a carbon chatas. That it's majority 9 months. We don't say that because there's a problem here with saying that she's part of the majority. Okay. Taner Rabbanan. Start in a brisa. Rishon royally is kain gadol v'sheni mamzer misafek. Let's say he remained married to her. Okay, he married Shimon marries Leah after Reuven passes away, and after 9 months, after 7 months from the marriage, there's a child. 9 months from the death, 7 months from the marriage. So that child, the first child, royally is kain gadol. He could be even a kain gadol. Why? Well, Reuven was a kain, his father was a kain. Or let's say Shimon was or even if it's Shimon's son, so they're both kainim. So the child is a kosher child. However, if they continue to stay together, the second child is a mamzer misafek. Why? Because maybe the child that was born from Reuven, the child was from Reuven. That means Shimon was never supposed to marry Leah, and then he has a child with her. That's eishasach. That's an incestuous relationship. The child is a mamzer, but we don't know. So it's mamzer misafek. Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov Aimer, Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov. It's Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov. Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov. Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov says, "Ein mamzer misafek." Okay, we don't know what those words mean. The words, what it says is, it's not a doubt. It's not a doubt. A doubt means what? It's not a doubt means that it's definitely a problem or it's definitely not a problem. Right? He doesn't say what he means. My Kamar, what is he saying? Amar Abaya, so we're going to have two opinions here, what he's saying. Opinion of Abaya, opinion of Rava. Abaya says, Hachi Kamar. Rishon royally is kain gadol. Okay, so far so good. That we knew, right? The Sheni, the second one, we're not talking about Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov yet. We're talking about the sages. Safek mamzer, v'aser b'mamzeres. It's a Safek mamzer. So a Safek mamzer would not be allowed to marry a mamzeres because maybe it's not a mamzer. This boy that was born from Shimon and Leah, the second child, So cannot marry a mamzeres. However, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Aimer, ain't a suffix mamzer, a lavade mamzer. We consider him a vade mamzer, or mutter ben mamzeres, and he's allowed to. So we said ain't a suffix. What do we mean ain't a suffix? We mean he's a vadai. Rava Amar, Hachi Kamar. Rava says differently. He says Rishon Royal Yiskan Gadol. Okay, that we got. First one is kosher. V'sheni mamzer vadai misafik. This, what does that mean? It's definitely a doubt. The second one is definitely uncertain.
It's definitely uncertain.
Well, no, he's definitely a suffix mamzer, and therefore a mutter ben mamzeres, and therefore he can marry a mamzeres. No, he's a mamzer bada. No, it's different. It's not definitely uncertain. He is a definite mamzer because of the uncertainty, and therefore he can marry the mamzeres. That was the opinion of the sages. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Aimer, ein vadai mamzer misafik. Ela suffix mamzer. We don't determine that he becomes a vadai because of uncertainty. He's still uncertain, and therefore asur b'mamzeres. We don't determine anything. We don't know. So Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says he cannot marry the mamzer. So now we have a machlekes Abaya and Rava. What's the opinion of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov? According to Abaya, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov held that this girl that was born, it was a boy that was born, can marry Shimon and Leah. The second child can marry a mamzeres, and according to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, cannot marry a mamzeres. Now the Gemara says, okay, you have a machlekes Abaya and Rava. What's the opinion of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov? V'kamiflagi b'der Rabbi Elazar, and they're arguing really about another machlekes. The Tanan was taught in a Mishnah. Rabbi Elazar Aimer, vadoin bevadoin mutter. A vadai mamzer with another vadai mamzer, they're allowed to get married. Yeah, the rule with the mamzer is that they're not allowed to marry into the congregation. So, but if there's another mamzer, then that's not considered the congregation. So they can marry a mamzer, can marry a mamzeres. Yeah. What's going to be with the children? Also be mamzerim. So it's not a great solution, but at least they'll be able to get married. Yeah.
They're doomed for 10 generations.
Oh, more than that, forever, not just 10 generations.
Mamzers.
No, what the 10 generations had to do with some other things, but a mamzer I think goes on forever. Yeah, it's not fair, but life isn't fair. So vade bevade is mutter. Vade besveikan, besveikan bevadon, besveikan besveikan. What's going to be with those? A definite with a doubt with a definite, or two doubts. Usser, they're not allowed to get married. Only a definite with a definite mamzer. Mamzer with the mamzer is allowed to marry. Beilu and Sveikan, you want to hear who's the suffix? Shtuki, someone that we don't know who the father is. Shtuki is because when the child calls father, the mother says, shh, don't shtuik. It's not him or something. But a Sufi is someone that we don't know who the mother or the father is. It's someone that was just found on the doorstep or at the railroad station or something. The kuti. And the kuti is a problem as well because we don't know if they kept the laws of marriage and gittin properly. So we consider them also a suffix. So all of those are sveikas. Those are not allowed to marry one another because it could be that they're perfectly kosher. Right? Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav. In order to understand this, you just have to accept one small point, that Rav Yehuda is a student of Rav, and then he's a student of Shmuel. So, first he says in the name of Rav, Halachik Rabbi Elazar. Okay. What does Rabbi Elazar? Halachik Rabbi Elazar. What does Rabbi Elazar say? No. Yeah.
It's similar.
The Tzedukim didn't accept Tershbal Peh, and the Kutim were converts that weren't really sincere. They had
They're not in the same line.
no, the tzaddikim were Jewish. They didn't believe in the world to come. Also, I think.
You're saying that Kutim not Jewish at all.
Yeah, the Kutim. There was a time when they were considered Jewish, and then we said that they're not. So what are we talking about here? We're probably talking about during the early time when they were Jewish. But even then, we even when they were considered Jewish, we still had problems. Right. So Rav Yehuda says Allah is like Rabbi Lezer, that a suffix with a suffix is not allowed to get married. So then Rav Yehuda goes on. He says, "Kamrisa kamei de Shmuel." I then went after Rav passed away. Rav Yehuda went to Shmuel to study. Rav was in the south of. He was in Surah. Shmuel was in Nardai. It was more north. So Rav then went to travel. He went to study by Shmuel. So he would say over statements in the name of Rav, but Shmuel would always argue with him. He says, "Kamris kami de Shmuel Amrali." He said to me, "Hillel Shana." Hillel taught, "Asara yuchsan olam mi Bavel." There were 10 types of lineages that came up from Bavel after the destruction, after the exile. And who were they? Now, the way this Mishnah was itemized is that every two can always match. All right, so it works like this: that it's going to say at the end of this list that all of them are mutter one with the other. Now, it's not number one with number 10. It's only number one with number two, and number two with number three, and number three with number four. But it's not. It doesn't jump. There's going to be problems. So it goes like this: Kayane, Levi, the Yisraeli, Chalali. All of those are mutter. So a Kayan can marry a Levi can marry a Yisrael can marry a Chalal. A Chalal is someone that can't marry a Kayan. So we're still okay. In Chalali Geiri, the Chalal can marry the Geiri. In the Geiri Haruri, a Shifcha, a convert, and can also and they can marry someone that.
Why can a Ger marry an Israel?
Can marry Israel also. So some of them can jump, but not all of them can jump. So a Shifcha or a Eved that was Meshucher, that was emancipated. Mamzeri. So the emancipated slave can marry the mamzer, or Nasini. Nasini are the people that converted in the days of Yeshua. They tricked. They said that they were someone else, and then anyway, there was a decree on them that they shouldn't marry in to the community, but they're allowed to marry a mamzer. And a shtuki, like we said before, was someone that we don't know who the father is. A sufi is someone who we don't know who both parents are. Kulam mutarim lavi zeh b'zeh. All of them can marry one another. Now, what you just told me is that a shtuki can marry an asufi. Both of them are doubtful. Let's say one of them was a mamzer and one of them wasn't. They're both doubts. So if you tell me that a doubt is permissible with a doubt, you're going to end up telling me that it could be a mamzer with someone that's not a mamzer. So and then you tell me that halachic Rabbi Lazar, according to Rabbi Lazar, we said that a suffix is usher with a suffix. A doubt is prohibited to marry another doubt. And according to the way Hillel taught this Mishnah, a doubt is permissible to marry another doubt. So you can't have both of those. So the Gemara now says, back to Abaya and Rava. We had a machlekes. What was the opinion of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov? Abaya held that a doubt becomes permissible to marry a mamzeres. Abaya sabala kishmol damar halacha ki Hillel. Abaya follows Shmuel. Shmuel says, quotes the Mishnah from Hillel, that a doubt can marry a doubt. And then therefore, Mukilela Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov aliba de Hilchasa. And he passes like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. The rule is we always go like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. It says Mishnasi Kavanaki. Because or else we're going to have a problem here. He passes like Shmuel. Shmuel says Allah is like Hillel. And we also have a rule that Allah is like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. How's it going to fit? Well, it matches up because everyone holds that a doubt is allowed to marry a doubt. A doubt is considered definite. Rava Savala Karav, but Rava learns like Rav. Damar Halachik Rabbi Lazar. He says that a doubt is prohibited. Mukilala de Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov. And he also learns, he also establishes the way Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov learned that a doubt was prohibited. See, the problem with Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov was that he just said there's no doubt. And we didn't know how to learn that. So Abaya said no doubt means that it's considered definite. Rava said no doubt means that it's considered a definite doubt. that there's a problem. They can't marry a mamzeres. So Mukila the Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov believed the hilchasa that a suffix mamzer is not allowed to marry a vadai mamzeres. Keichid liktikshi hilchasa, so that we don't have a contradiction in the halachas. Okay. Amar Abaya mina amina la dekol sveikel Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov kavadei mashvala. Abaya says, how do I know that I'm correct? That Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov holds that a doubt is considered like a vadai and is allowed to marry a mamzeres. The Tanya, we have a brisa which actually says the opinion of Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov. Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov Aimer, Harei Shabal Nashim Harbe. If a man lived with many women, Ve'eni Yidei Alezim Mehem Ba. Probably, yeah. He doesn't even know all the women that he was with. That's a problem on a few levels. Also, she lived with many men, and she doesn't even know which one made her pregnant. Yeah. Yeah. I have a shidduch. Okay. So, Nimtza Abnaisius. No, it means Nisabra, Rashi says. Yeah, conceived. Nimtza Abnaisius Bite Vachnaisius Achaisai. What's going to come out from such a thing, such a people, is that it's gonna end up being that a father may end up marrying the daughter, a brother's gonna marry a sister. No one knows who's the father, who's the okay. And the world is going to be filled with mamzerim. This is what it says. The world, the earth is filled up with what's zima? How do they translate zima? Lewdness, depravity. Okay. Now, what Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov said is that they're all mamzerim. They're not mamzerim. They're a suffix. Well, Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov holds, according to Abaya, that a suffix is considered a vadai. However, Rava would respond to Abaya's proof. He says, Hachikamar, the word zima is an acronym. So Rashi Tevot, Zu Mahi. Who is this? Not that it's a mamzer. He meant to say that it's zima that we don't know. It's a suffix. And according to Rava, a suffix is not really a mamzer. A suffix is okay. What did Rava end up telling us over here? Rava tells us that according to Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov, it's aser, the mamzeres. The suffix mamzer is aser the mamzeres. Okay. Yeser al Kainam Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov. Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov says something even more than this. What does he say? La yisa the misha b'medina zu b'yelech v'yisishim b'medina acheres. We had this in Yuma. A person should not have one wife in this country and another wife in another country. Maybe the son from this one is going to end up marrying the daughter from that one. Yeah, your story. Is that so? When Rav would travel to another city to Dardashir, he would say, "Who wants to be my wife for a day?" Rav Nachman Rav Nachman would also say he wants to be my wife for a day. It says Shani Rabbanan the Pekiya Shemai. Over there, we're not concerned that a daughter is going to marry a son is going to marry a daughter, a brother marry a sister, because everyone would say they would be proud that my father's Rav, so it was not going to get mixed up. Gemara says, yeah, we learned this in Yuma. He said, but he's not allowed to do that. He's not allowed to show up for a day and take a wife. That from the proposal, you have to wait 7 days. You can't just get married right away. After he proposes to her, you have to wait 7 days because maybe from the excitement, she becomes a nida, and then she has to go to the mikveh. So the Gemara says, Rabbanan shluchayav mishadrim meidoilahu. Gemara answers that they sent messengers 7 days beforehand to ask the question, and then when they showed up, they were already gone to the mikveh.
No comment.
Another pshat l'Rabbanan yichudi be'almo d'miachtalu. Maybe they didn't really have relations. It was just yichud. They were just they're just together, secluded. What's the benefit of that? Can't compare someone that has bread in the basket. Bread in the basket, he's not as hungry as someone that doesn't have bread in the basket. So he had someone that's available. Taisus has an interesting question here. The fact is, she's not available. It was less than 7 days. It's even worse. Yichud is also. If you can't, was never with her before. Yeah, it's a complicated problem. Okay, let's leave it as a problem. Tana started in a brayso. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Eimer la yisa adam ishtei v'daita legarsha. See, this is probably coming in here because we just said before that he's going to marry her for a day. Now, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says that a person shouldn't marry a woman with intention to divorce her. Probably what it means is that he has to let her know that it's temporary, but he shouldn't fool her. Don't plan bad with against your friend, and he's sincere and he's trusting. Okay. Should we start the next thing?
She thought she was married forever.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's do two more lines before it gets complicated. Suffolk the Yavam shabo lach like benichse misna. It's going to get complicated in a minute, but right now it's what happens now. I now have a child that wants to inherit Reuven, and I also have Shimon that wants to inherit Reuven. Reuven passed away, so Shimon marries Leah, and there's a child. We don't know if the child is 9 months from Reuven or a child is 7 months. So the child grows up and he says, I want my father's inheritance, Reuven. I don't know what you're doing here, Shimon, but Reuven's my father. And Shimon says, actually, you're my son, and you don't get the inheritance. You have to wait for that. So, but meanwhile, the child wants the inheritance right now. You get this? This is a real argument. So what would they do today? They would do a DNA test. I don't know. So Safek Amar Ana Bar Misnahu. The child says the child says, I'm the son of the deceased. I'm Reuven's son. And all the inheritance is mine. You're my son. You don't get anything. So there's a doubt over here. And money that's left in doubt is divided. Now, usually you say, but you would only say that if there's a mitzi over here, no one has it. It's all in the estate of Reuven. If Shimon already had it, there would be a problem. If the son already had it, it would be a problem. Over here, it's not in either of their hands. So if it's not in either of the hands, we say it's divided. Next case is, okay, let's leave the next case because that's going to be a big machlekes. Save it over here.
Yeah. So
Tomorrow at 9. Is that all right?
9 a.m.
Yeah. Is that all right?
They go to the first meetings. We're gonna get, they weren't my first meetings probably anyway.
Yeah.